This is a matter we need to clarify because what Nandalal has said to the public is that there is a contention that there were 15,000, he mentioned, fraudulent votes. I don't know of that contention of 15,000 fraudulent votes. I know that during the recount, it was determined that the statutory documents for 47 boxes in the East Coast, area for which Nandalal superintended for the PPP, could not be sourced, could not be found. It means that in that forensic recount, those votes could not be validated because you did not have the documents which are used in the place of poll to cross off the names that documents which are then used at the end of poll to say there's so many names crossed off, there's so many ballots, and therefore these ballots are valid in keeping with the number of persons who turned up to vote. In the recount, those documents could not be found. And therefore, the validation of those votes became a question. Is it true that this is the number of persons who voted, or is it not true? And that's the purpose a recount serves. Now, during that process, there was a court matter, and in that court matter, I think the judgment talked about only valid votes should be counted. In that regard, I think the chief elections officer proceeded to exclude from the count those votes on the contention that they were not validated during the process of the recount. The fact of the matter is, I did not take the same position as the chief elections officer. My contention was that these persons, they must have been persons who voted. And so, notwithstanding the absence of the documents of validation, you can't simply discard those votes. You had to go to another process that would allow people who did vote not to lose their franchise. And therefore, my proposition was a by-election.
I remember that
that
clearly.
would allow those persons to vote as you discard these questionable ballots. But to ensure that every Guyanese entitled to vote was allowed to do so by virtue of a by-election. So Nandalal again is dishonest when he says to the public that there was some contention that there were 15,000 fraudulent votes. There were 15,000 votes over which there were issues of validation. And in the interest of upholding the Constitution, my proposition was a by-election. That's documented. And copies of that document can be found, if they haven't destroyed them, in the National Library and in the University Library.